Yeah, you know, as for everybody that is kind of new, or you know, hasn't explored all of the features, I'll just go through them really quickly. You know, you have your main prompt here. You have your style prompt, which is just appended to your main prompt when it sends it in. The reason those are separated is because it makes it, if you have a certain style that you are dialing in, you can leave the style the same while just changing the prompt. And there's a lot of different styles to choose from, of course, and you can also search for a specific style if you want. And if you guys have other styles that you would like to see, or like more variety or anything, like totally let us know. We've actually been talking recently about revamping our style prompts to make them just, you know, better in every way. So yeah, let us know if that's something that you guys would be interested in. And yeah, the default one is just intricate details, breathtaking, amazing, award-winning. That one's just a great one to go with. I will say sometimes I'll get like where it says, because I have award-winning in here, sometimes it'll create like a little like golden badge for winning an award on the prompt or on the image itself. So sometimes, you know, I want to avoid that. Other than that, you've got like, you know, the different models, which we'll get to, the image sizes. This isn't just aspect ratio because there's actually 3 different sizes for the square images. And the reason you might want to do this is maybe you have internet bandwidth limitations, or you just want to generate faster, or you want to use fewer spark points when you generate, and so on. And so, but I'm just going to keep this at, actually, no, let's do like a mobile aspect ratio. That sounds good. And then the avoid prompt, which is what you do not want in your images. Not all models support avoid prompts, so keep that in mind. Yeah, that's kind of an important aspect of it. Seed is just like you know, the starting point that when the images are generated. It's just a numerical designation, which if you're dialing in, or you want to, you know, change the style but keep the rest of the image the same, you'll get much more consistent results with the seed. I'm going to keep it random. Steps is how, basically, like, think about like that. A good way to think about steps is like how many layers of paint are you putting on, with each layer adding more detail. But then eventually there's diminishing returns. I find with Kriya like 20 steps is great. If you do more steps, I'll find that it actually doesn't really change what the image looks like. Like if I let's grab this prompt right here, which is astronaut, an attractive woman at the train station, reflective full face visor, reflective homeless resting on the bench, detailed alien face. So that's this image here. Let's go ahead and generate them. Even though I'm using the same prompt, I'm using a different aspect ratio, so it's going to be quite different. And you see I did 25 steps here. I'm actually, as I said, I generally do 20. And I'm going to actually, here's what we're going to do to kind of show this off. Let's change to a standard wide aspect ratio, and I'm going to generate just one image, and go. And of course, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. Ooh, we got an alien face in this one. So you can see by doing different number of steps, we're going to get, well, I'll show you the different quality. But also, this is generating one image. Just make sure everything is right. Yeah. So we're going for like a hand-drawn marker shading, which I think it did a good job at it. But you can see if I change this to, say, I don't know, 40 steps, it's going to take a while, but it'll be pretty similar, basically like the same image. So what happens is that it starts as like very blurry like this. As it's generating, it gets more details. But then kind of eventually, it's just like already done, and you're just adding the same details over it, in which case you're just using up more spark points. Cool. So it actually did change how it looked like quite a lot. But you'll find that it doesn't give you better detail at a certain point, which is why this bar turns a different color when you get to really high steps. But I'm going to leave it at 20. I think 20 was good. Guidance is how closely it resembles your prompt, like how closely do you want it to follow your prompt, but it also has a couple other effects from it. So I just generated the same image again with 20 steps so that I can show you. In fact, doing 20 steps actually generated a better image than when I did 40 steps. But also, when you have higher guidance, you will also get higher saturation. So if I turn it up all the way, that's usually a good way to find out what the different settings do, is like turn it up all the way, turn it down all the way, see what the difference is, and then you can kind of find the middle from there. And you can see, even though I have the same seed, I got a very different style, and that's because I switched the guidance up, changed guidance up quite a lot, which changes how it's going to generate in a very big way. But when you have really high guidance, you will get really high contrast as well. You can see we have like very dark blacks, very light whites, and you'll get almost this kind of like a posterization effect where you'll have very few uh, colors in the actual image. And now if I turn this down, let's not go all the way down, but let's go down to like 1.5 guidance. And so when you want like realistic images, like photorealism and stuff, you typically want to do a lower guidance because you get more natural lighting, more natural colors and everything. And then if we turned it up more, we would get it be kind of like sharper, more contrasty and stuff. Then a guide image is pretty self-explanatory. You bring a oops, can't click and drag in the web app. I'm used to using SOGNI Pocket. But oh, I can do it right here. Click guide image. So that's right. And they can bring it over as a guide image right there. And now you have this strength slider, and this is okay. I want to generate a very similar image, but I want it to yeah, make some slight tweaks to it and stuff. And so you have the strength. If you you'll notice also, if I do it at 96% strength, when I go to generate, it's going to be very few steps for it to actually go. See, it basically just did one step. And if I bring it down, then it would be more steps. So it's basically like the painting is already this much done. I just want to do the last 30%, and that's what guide image is for. Then with the I'm just gonna check the chat real quick to see what you guys are saying. Yeah, 20 steps does look more artsy. 12 steps will definitely save you tokens, but in Kriya, I think 12 steps is going to, let's actually do it. Let's go down to 12 steps. I mean, I don't know. There's not like a right and wrong way of doing it. Having fewer steps is just going to lead into an, ooh, I mean, that one doesn't look very good. But if let's bring this up. Let's bring it up to like 16. Kind of go right in the middle of 12 and 20. Yeah, so that's, yeah, you'll see that you'll get kind of more realism and more colors as you go higher steps. But then also you can see the spark points are going to increase because each step requires a GPU power to render it, and so it goes up. So that's 3.62 spark for 16 steps. If I go up to 20 steps, it's going to get to 4.53. If you do want to do fewer steps, a good way to do that is to start with a different model that's really fast, like maybe Flex Schnell, and generate the image you want, use it as a guide image, and go from there. So I'm going to do that actually. Let's switch to Schnell. Let's do 4 images, the same prompt, and you get like a wildly different look here. But let's say, I actually quite liked this vibe, but I want it to be that marker style that I mentioned. So I can set this as a guide image, and now I'm going to change my model back to Kriya. Oops, and then exit out of the Model Explorer. And then, depending on the strength that I want, like, this will make it basically the same as it was with Flux. But if I were to bring it down to, say, like 50%, what I'm expecting is I'll get a little bit more of that marker texture, and just like, nicer quality. But yeah, basically like a similar image. See this? And that's just so cool that you can do that, because when I generated the image in Flux, it's, oops, I don't need the style, I need the model. Generating 4 images in Flux is 3.2 spark. That was less than 1 Kriya image. And so you could like dial in your ideas in a more lightweight model, which could be like Flux. It could be Chroma Flash, which is another lightweight one. This one can generate, in 12 steps. I could even bring it down to like 10 steps and generate here. Since I'm using a guide image, we'll get a very similar result. but also a chroma flash has a very distinct look to it, where you'll get like, I mean, the best way I can show is if I just don't use a guide image. It's got a very recognizable look whenever I do flux chroma flash, because yeah, you just get these almost like, I don't know, it's hard to even describe, but you can always just kind of recognize it with all of the different styles they do. Anything else going on in the chat before I start creating some Slothicorns? Okay, sweet. Let's do that. Let's start creating some Slothies. I'm going to. I think this is actually a pretty good aspect ratio, and for the challenge we want to do consistent characters, and so I'm going to switch. Let's actually use Chroma, which is V48, the detailed version, which is very different. Chroma Flash and Chroma Detailed are wildly different prompts. So I just started using the same prompt here. I will say if you're using the Chroma Detailed prompt, it's very important to have a good negative prompt with it. Let me close the style prompt. And we have our avoid prompt, or our negative prompt, which right now is a generic one: malformation, bad anatomy, and so on. But I can already tell that we would probably want to have a more detailed negative prompt, so that we're not getting too messy like this. Like I could even add like messy. We could add oversaturated. We could add vignette. I know sometimes it has a tendency to add a vignette to it. I don't know how much of a difference that will make, just with a little bit of changes to it. But generally speaking, if you're using V48, you'll get better results with more detailed prompts. Also, how many? Oh, my guidance is also high. Typically, I think I would go more like a guidance of 4, and we can bring our steps down to like 20 or so, just so we can get results a little faster. One thing I actually really do love about Chroma Detail is I feel like it might be like the most artistic model. I mean, they all like have their different strengths and everything, but I find that Chroma Detailed really has a tendency to take kind of to show off its artistic freedom. Like this one's actually pretty great. Actually, I really like how that one looks, and it looks almost like a marker or a watercolor. I mean, it's like marker, but like a really thin marker, like that. I'm gonna actually save that image. I like it. Yeah. So then let's switch over to a Slothi prompt. I've got one. Let's see. One second. My computer is my computer's freezing up. I have to force close some stuff. Just bear with me. All right. So I'm gonna grab this image that you can't see, but is a really cool one. Yeah, right here. Okay. So this prompt is one that I did in Kriya. So we're going to see how well it goes, and I'm going to grab yeah. So if I want to have a consistent character, there's until we integrate Laura's, there's a couple ways to do it. One is to have your character be very specific and detailed in your prompt. So in this case, I have a groovy pink sloth with a unicorn horn, green eyes, pink fuzzy hands, wearing only a leather jacket and white t-shirt. So right there's like my description of my character right there, and then I have motion blur, dynamic angle, sense of speed, vibrant colors, high energy, sliding, and then sliding down a rainbow with arms out and a mountain peak background. I could honestly take this section here, motion blur, dynamic angle, sense of speed, and so on, and put it in my style prompt. So we have the marker render, which was the style that I was using. If I put that there, and which style did I use for this? Oh, I just had the default one. So I'm going to go ahead and add the default style to that. So then our style prompt is motion blur, dynamic angle, sense of speed, so on. And then I added intricate details, breathtaking, amazing, award-winning to it. And my negative prompt is still the same default one. So let's go ahead and bring that back together. And oh, I already have I don't need to keep that in there because I put it in the style prompt. Cool. And let's generate. And because my character is, we're talking about a pink sloth with a unicorn horn, green eyes, and a leather jacket. I think, I also, in some of these other ones, I'm going to actually change this. I added, all right, so I can already tell that I'm trying to do kind of like a realistic one in here. I actually don't even list what kind of art style is in here. And that's why we're getting this like really artistic. That's actually kind of cool. I like that a lot, actually. And what I forgot to add is the pink, is the rainbow mohawk. But add a rainbow mohawk. Rainbow mohawk. And yeah. And I'm gonna actually switch back. We'll come back to chroma. I'm gonna switch to Korea. And we'll create. Cool. So this is a very similar image to the one that I actually had created. And there's a few things that whenever I'm generating sloths, I've noticed is that the hands or the claws are just like really hard for any AI model to generate. Sometimes I'll put in like 3-toed sloth, and then it will specify because they just. But like sloths already, if I'm trying to generate a cute sloth claws are just not cute. So I like something like this where I just tell it like fuzzy hands or something like that. But yeah, so there's this one. And then I have my character because it's very specific: white shirt, black leather jacket, unicorn horn, mohawk, and so on. And then I can take and like change other parts of this and have it be, let's see, from here. I'm just going to leave a space in there. From here on down is like the part that I'm going to change. So I'm going to leave the character the same, but I'm going to change other parts of it. I just wanted to double check real quick though. I'm wearing only I'm going to say a black leather jacket just to be more specific. I know I already did that, but might not always. Groovy pink sloth. It's also, yeah, I think this is good. Okay, but let's change what the sloth is doing. I mean, we could also even just remove it and say, okay, I just want, an image of a sloth and then like let the model determine what the sloth is going to be doing. It's probably going to be kind of just like, yeah, action shots, which actually is pretty rad. There we go. And also sometimes with sloth, I also, I put fuzzy hands, but maybe I don't want the word hands in there because it can add fingers. And so I can add fuzzy gloves. And then that will sometimes just make it look like it's wearing like mascot gloves. And is it Ethan? You want me to do SOGNI XL? Okay, yeah, or SOGNI XL, Stable Diffusion XL. Yeah, I will. Let's do that. Let's switch over and see. It also, if we're looking at like the SDXL models, there's so many of them, and so you'll find that some of them have different strengths. If I were to grab, for example, a blue pencil, which is probably my favorite anime model, we will get an anime style of this. But it's also, I find that a lot of different models struggle with generating sloths, just in general. So right here, it's almost, we're getting like a furry kind of thing, but not a sloth. And so let's switch to a different SDXL model. I also really like, we can check another anime model and see. Let's do Blue Pixel V5. Yeah, I love Analog Madness. That one's, yeah, it's pretty dang solid. So let's see how this one goes. And since I'm switching models a lot, it'll take it a second each time. Yeah, I have a feeling that there's not a lot of sloths in the training data for some of these ones. Analog Madness, I actually think that maybe, I don't remember if it's Albedo Base or Analog Madness that are my favorite. Let's do V2. There we go. Ooh, V2 is. I mean, they at least it did a sloth. Let's do. Let's try SOGNI XL and go. Oh yeah, there we go. SOGNI XL does a sloth. Yeah, so basically we can get like the same thing, and then it's like we could just think about like what this character is doing. And I will say like it is nice using the SDXL models. They are you know, you find one that has the vibe that you're looking for. Like if I go to albedo base and did like this one, if you find one that does a good style that you're looking for, it's so nice because you can just use that model, and it gives you more reliable like consistency compared to just dialing in your style prompt and everything. I can already look at these and see that they're a bit over saturated and contrasty, and so I'm going to bring my guidance down. Guidance of 7.5 is quite high for an SDXL model. I think I brought it back down to more like 5.5. We will get a little bit less of this where you're getting like the whites are starting to get a little bit blown out and it's just like overly contrasty. Really fun gloves though. That was pretty funny. I think the tricorn sloth. That's pretty funny. But yeah, so other than that, I want to show some other cool ones. This is actually I got one that I really liked with chroma detailed. Let's see. Do. Bring that one. And then let's grab our style prompt and paste it. And I'm going to bring over, and by the way, I'm just pulling these over from my gallery in SOGNI Studio, which is what I would normally be using over SOGNI Web because it has a gallery. Okay, so we got malformation. That's good. And I'm going to switch back to chroma detail. And so in this case, I'm gonna switch to yeah, I already switched to chroma detailed V48, and I'm specifically wanting a very artistic image. So we have like uh fantasy art, ink splatter, painterly brush strokes, and thick paint texture. I think I had just chosen like fantasy art style, and then I added ink splatter, painterly, and thick paint texture to the end of it. Um, and then the rest is largely the same kind of prompt. Ooh, that's a good slothy creative lady. I like it. Yeah, see, I love how these guys look. Can already tell. I almost wanted it to look like he was just like, I don't know, ethereal. Oh, I also had changed that. Ethereal transparent pink sloth. And I know it's not like transparent, but like having it switch into where it's like kind of morphing and stuff is so cool. I love it. I think one of the things I mentioned we're gonna make some changes to the style prompts. I think I wanted to dial in this style prompt. All right. I see, Nepo, you have a different style. Let's do it. But actually, I'm going to save this because I like it. Actually, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to share it in the chat. You guys can check it out. Bam. Okay. You guys can see it in a little more detail. These are all like really good. I love it. Okay. Let's grab I'm going to grab the style prompt. Okay. So we have, this is the one from the chat, oil painting, thick brush strokes, textured paint, and so on. I like it. Okay, and also we're getting towards the end of the time here. Does anybody have any other questions or things that they want to see? Feel free to shout out. Ooh, I like that a lot actually. Because so in the one that I generated, I had Painterly, and I think I had it as like a digital painting, and so you get the really cool like digital paint textures, but you don't get like this where it looks like actual paint, on there. And we could even like dial this in and say like thick paint, or we'd have thick brush strokes, but you can add it again, thick paint texture. It's generally important to spell things correctly in your prompts if you want it to create what you want. Yeah, I think like when it comes to, because the two main models that I use are Chroma Detailed and Krea, and if unless I want to create something that's like 2D, if it's like two-dimensional, I often will actually go with Chroma Flash because it does really good at that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, that's so good. It's almost like the sloth is, I don't know. Yeah. So if I did this one, and here, I'll show this one. You guys can look at it a bit closer. Um, and if I switch to Krea, I can it'll will Krea is a opinionated model. It wants to create kind of uh, a photorealistic image naturally. So when you want it to do things that are not photorealistic, um, you'll get it'll be kind of like a mix of the two, which I can already kind of see. I mean, I actually did a pretty great job going through these. We're not getting like the like texture as much, but we are getting a little bit more realistic. Oh, look at this! He's got the right number of claws and stuff. It's great. I like them a lot. And then what I would often do, especially if we're talking about generating paintings, it's very common to get watermarks, and so then I would just download this and then either Photoshop it, or if you don't have like Photoshop or an image editing app, I think most phones at this point have like a magic eraser kind of thing, where you can just get rid of watermarks. But yeah, that's a fun. This guy knows. This little sloth kid knows how to have fun. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything, or are we ready for the secret phrase?
Yeah, I believe we are ready, so we can drop it now. So attention, everyone, because I am dropping it. So here's the secret phrase: snow vision. I repeat, snow vision. I've sent the form in the chat in a minute, so